Hi, my name is Dashui and I'm reporting on Alan Shepard. Alan Shepard was born November 18, 1923. He died in 1998. On May 5, 1961, Alan Shepard became the first American in space. He flew on a Mercury spacecraft. There was just enough room for one person. He flew 116 miles high. The flight lasted about 15 and a half minutes. He also walked on the moon. Shepard hit a golf ball on the moon. It showed how far the ball would go in the moon's lower gravity. So that was science too.
So this is a report on Alan Shepard. And what's the major fact about Alan Shepard? He was the what?
First American in space.
The first American in space. And I want you to look at this little capsule.
That's where he flew in.
That is the little capsule that he flew.
And once you open the door, you can't close it again.
That's right. Once you open the door, you can't close it again. So they sealed him up. He shot off in the rocket. And then he orbited and he stayed in space how long?
15 and a half minutes.
15 and a half minutes. When it was time for him to land, you know, our regular space shuttle lands like an airplane. What happens to this capsule?
It blasts off.
It blasts off, and then how does he come back to Earth? Do you know? No. This comes flying down to Earth. They have it programmed so it comes over the ocean, the Pacific Ocean, or the Atlantic Ocean, and a big parachute comes out of the end of it, and he floats down and he splashes into the water. And then the Navy has to come and get him out of this little capsule. This is a tiny, tiny little space. And if you go to the museum in Washington, D.C., you can actually see this capsule that he traveled in. It is so tiny. He was our first American. But wait a minute. That was not the end of his astronaut life, was it? Then what did he get to do later on?
Walk on the moon.
He got to be one of the astronauts that went to the moon, and he walked on the moon. And you have a very fun fact about when he got to the moon.
He had a golf ball on the moon.
He did what?
He had a golf ball on the moon.
He took a golf club and he took a golf ball and he hit a golf ball on the moon and watched it just sail away. There's a low gravity on the moon, so it didn't float out into space, but it went very, very, very far. What was your favorite fact that you learned about Alan Shepard?
Shepard hit a golf ball on the moon.
Say what?
Shepard hit a golf ball on the moon.
Yeah, that's a really funny fact that he did that. Now, he's not the first man to step foot on the moon. That was another reporter we're going to have, Neil Armstrong. But Alan Shepard was certainly on the moon too. This is great. How many, you have any questions for Dashui? He's got a lot of great information. That's a name that you want to remember in space, Alan Shepard.
Well, it's not real questions. I know something about him. He didn't actually fully orbit Earth. He didn't fully orbit it.
He didn't orbit the whole Earth?
No, he didn't.
Ah.
The first person to do that was John Glenn. He was the first person.
All right.
Why would he hit a golf ball on the moon?
Just for science?
See how far it bounced?
Yeah.
Since there was no low gravity, I think he
Just
wanted
like
to know,
science.
you know, how far it was going to go. It's going to be a very cool experience because hit a golf ball on Earth. It's going to be very different to hit a golf ball on the moon because the gravity is so different.
Fine.
Do you know how far the golf ball went?
Yeah, pretty far.
Far.
But not that fast.
All right, one more question for Dashui.
Was his last name Shepard or was it not?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's his name, Alan Shepard.
Jaden.
What number astronaut was he? Is the first astronaut on the second, third, fourth, fifth? He was the first American.
Oh, second.
He was the second on the moon because Neil Armstrong was the first one to step on the moon. But he was in space before Neil Armstrong because he was the first American to go in space. If you were listening to his report, he told us that. It was a good fact he told us. All right, last question. Call on one last person.
Catherine.
Catherine. Don't touch the You forgot your question? All right, Keegan, did you have a question?
How fast can the golf ball go?
We don't know that.
Wait, oh, I remember.
Yes, what?
Do you think it's still in our universe, or do you think it went in a different universe?
Good question. Do you think the golf ball is still in our universe, or do you think it went someplace else?
I think it's still
It's probably right where it landed, because the funny thing is, the footprints that Neil Armstrong had when he stepped on the moon, they're still there. Because there's no wind, no rain, no air. I mean, there's air, but there's like different. It's not air,
No
oxygen
wind.
air. And so it's probably exactly the same as it was left. So the golf ball is probably sitting exactly where
So
it
the
landed.
golf ball landed. It just went farther than it would than on Earth because of the low gravity. So it landed on the moon. I don't know if he even knew where it landed, but it eventually landed on the moon, and it is, like Miss Sweeney said, still right there.
I wonder if it landed on a planet and a satellite takes a picture of it.
Wouldn't that be
Yeah,
funny?
funny.
But no, it stayed in the moon's
Surface. Yeah.
orbit.
All right, let's give Dashui a hand.